Hello my succulent friends, it's me Suze from sisforsucculents, and I've decided to go in front of camera for a change. I'm not even sure where to look, so my eyeballs might be darting around everywhere. Today is going to be a cool day, a lot of wind as you can see behind me, with a top temperature of 16 degrees, which is quite mild. That's in Celsius. Yesterday was pleasant, it was 25, no wind, it was lovely actually. So last week was the start of summer for Australia, and we had a lovely introduction with an extreme heat wave. Though in my state of Victoria, which is a southern state, we seem to have dodged that bullet fortunately. We only had 2 days where the weather was a little bit higher than usual. So I know some people in Queensland who grow, and they're telling me there's a lot of humidity around, and you know, humidity and succulents are not conducive. That extra moisture just adds another layer, another challenge to growing succulents in summer. So I feel for you guys. And I also know some people in South Australia, that's another southern state of Australia, though in peak summer their temperatures can get really extreme in the 40s, you know, and it can be relentless. It can go for days and days. So I do feel for you guys. Good luck through the season. So anyway, I thought today it might be fun to do a little update on some of the succulent pots I've featured in previous videos, and I can just show you how they're going and we can have a little chat about that. So let's begin. So I'll start with this one here. This is a Graptoveria Douglas huff, and it featured in a maintenance video I did quite recently where it had a lot of flower blooms that grew over spring, and the plant, you know, you couldn't see the beauty of the succulent, and I could see it was drawing a lot of energy into that and affecting the main plant. So taking the flower blooms off has really helped it flourish, and it's picking up a really lovely pink blush. See, we'll have a look at this crest here. Look at the colour, isn't it sublime? It's even a little bit romantic, isn't it, this colour? So what I like about the Douglas huff is that it gets some really interesting colours depending on the season and lighting conditions. It can get to a really deep mauve, purple. Oh, actually look, back here, these are the same, but these are crests, and look at that colour. See, it's a lovely shade, isn't it? And then it can revert back to a green if it's not getting a lot of light. So all in all, that one has really flourished and come along. This pot of Echeveria Violet Queens featured in a previous video as well. Some people prefer to say Echeveria. I prefer to say Echeveria. Look at the colour on the leaves. It's just gorgeous. I think this is due to the cooler temps. I'm not doing anything special with them. I haven't fertilised it. Please don't give me credit. It really has to do with the cooler temps, I'm sure. Anyway, not a lot to report on this. It was not a very exciting maintenance video, to be frank, but you can see a lot of these heads are now throwing off their own offsets, and that's what I love about the Violet Queen, is how well it offsets, and as these offsets mature it can get to a really beautiful clump. So I think soon I will deconstruct this and probably just put the best head in there and let it do its thing, and relocate the other two. So not a lot to report there, except that it just looks stunning. Next is this Graptoveria amethorum. I've done a lot of extra work on this since the last video. I've actually taken it out of the pot. I wanted to raise it a bit higher, added a bit of soil, and I brought the profile more flush with the rim. And I also took a lot of the lower leaves off, not so much for leaf propagation, but to give these chubbylicious babies some room to grow. It is pupping fiercely at the moment. There's so many of them. I'm trying to give you, trying to show you them. So anyway, when I took it out, I also added some systemic pesticides, granule systemic pesticides, and this is what I used. So I'm nearly out of it. So I've reordered a different brand, and I'm sure that will be fine as well, as long as it's a systemic. And for those who don't know how that works, is you put it in the soil when you water it. Boy, there's a lot of planes going overhead today. I had to stop filming for a minute because a plane was flying overhead. So what was I saying? Oh yes, systemic pesticides. So you put it in the soil, you water it in, and the roots absorb it, and the plant is protected from mealies, because this particular succulent is quite prone to them. And I did actually find 2 little webs on it. Nothing serious, there's no damage, so I took them off, and now we'll just wait for the pesticide to do its thing. I don't really want to go into pesticides too much right now. If you want me to do a video on it, I will tell you my experiences if you're interested. So how I know it's prone to mealies is the first one I got was this one, and although it is smaller, so you think it's younger, it's not. It got a bad mealy attack, so I dealt with that, cleaned it up, took a lot of leaves off, and it was starting to flourish again. And then I think I overwatered it, and a lot of the leaves went jelly, and then I removed that, and now I seem to have figured out the right balance for it, so it's doing much better. But you see that split in the leaf? I'm not sure, but I think that's sort of a symptom of holding too much water, so I don't know. But look at the colour, see, you can see why I like it, and that chubbiness of it. So I'm very excited about propagating it. So this to me is not going to be an ornamental, it's going to be what I like to refer to as a breeder, where I'm really looking forward to the journey of watching these pups grow, because this will be a new thing for me with this plant. Haven't experienced that yet. So I do have the remaining leaves, though with inspection I can feel they're a little bit jelly on the tip, and even some of them in the body, so I think they were just on their way out anyway in their natural life cycle. They might propagate, I don't know. I'll hold on to them and we'll see, but I'm not that focused on that, because the actual plant is doing some really great propagation, so that's where I'm going to put my focus. Now this one here I absolutely love. It is one of my favorite succulents. It's a Graptoveria agrim one, and in the previous video, it was a maintenance video where I was removing all the flower blooms. It had quite a lot of flower blooms it produced over spring, and I felt that it was detracting from the beauty because it was quite messy. Although the flowers were really gorgeous, a lovely yellow flower, I removed them because I wanted the plant to put its energy into growing itself rather than them, and I think it's really paid off, because it is really a lot bigger than it was, and that video was only about a month ago, I'd say, so I'm really pleased with that. I remember I was fussing around, worried about these little offsets, if they were going to get stuck under the rim. I don't even remember where that was, maybe it was here. I took out a couple of offsets to propagate separately. They're doing well, but I wanted to show you this little crest here. Isn't it the sweetest? This Graptoveria does have a tendency to crest, so I'm not surprised. So I'm very pleased with the results on that one. Graptosedum Francisco baldi, a very common succulent, but another one of my favourites to grow. I have a few patches of them in the ground in my front garden, and it really, they're really doing really well out there. Anyway, in this old video, what I had done was I had taken some cuttings and set it in this pot, and they have since rooted, which is good. They've been growing over winter, but unfortunately I've noticed that these two heads here in particular have elongated a little bit. They probably were stretching for extra light through winter. In the original video they were very striking, stressed pink, peachy colour, and so they've sort of reverted into a sort of a green with a little touch of a pink blush. There's not a lot to report there. I imagine with time these will grow and cascade over the edge, so it will be interesting to see how this pot progresses, but all in all I think the colours work well with this particular pot. This update is actually quite an interesting one. So I have an Agavoides here, so let's have a look at it first. So it's got one squished up head there, one there, and one there. So this has happened by manipulation. So it looked a lot like this Agavoides. It's the same species, and it had offsets like this one did. So I woke up one morning and there was caterpillar damage, quite severe in the middle. So I decided to remove the center point. For those who don't know, the center point is where the new growth happens. So when you remove that, it forces the plant to offset new pups. It's the same principle with beheadings. So I took that out, I removed its lower offsets, and it took about a month, and some new growth was starting to happen in the center, and what happened was it threw off two new pups, which were offsets, which were these two. And as these grew, the lower leaves just dried up in their natural cycle. So now all those lower leaves are gone. It also then threw off another pup. So this is quite an interesting one. You know, I could actually separate these three pups and you know, make new plants out of them, and potentially what's left of it may throw off more offsets, but I don't want to do that. I'm just sort of curious to see how this whole experiment just progresses and where it goes from here. I have another version of it. Here it is here. This one's not looking as happy. I've got a feeling they're about to go dormant. They seem to grow better in winter. You can see the leaves look a little bit more closed up and they don't feel as firm as usual. That's okay. But anyway, so any of you who recognise this Agavoides, I'd love to hear from you, because it's been a bit of a mystery for me. I've been able to, as you can see, I've got several of them on the go. I've been able to propagate it quite successfully. It actually is a good one for that. It's quite hardy. I just don't know what it's called. The very last succulent update I want to give you is on this Echeveria Golden Glow. It's the one in the background. Let me zoom in. There it is there. Now I'm filming from this angle in particular to show you how it is particularly high, and that's because it has a tall stem, and I've deliberately done that so when I take my Instagram photos it's in the background. Anyway, the video that it featured in, I was discussing how it was top heavy, and one of the things that were making it top heavy, oops I nearly tripped, was that it had about 5 really dense flower blooms. Dense in the sense that it had a lot of leaves on it, a lot like this one, but this is just beginning. And so I took those off to so it wasn't so top heavy, and I took them off so I could use them for propagation. Speaking of propagation and stems, now have a look at this stem of this flower bloom. Now this flower bloom has aphids, so it must go. So what I'm planning on doing is cutting it off at this point. If you wanted to keep your succulent looking ornamental, I would cut it here, but I'm leaving it because potentially offsets can happen in front of these leaves. So that actually is happening with those flower blooms I spoke of before. I still have a couple, and they're in a pot down here. So let me just take a breath. So here you can see there's a pup there and a pup there. This one has a couple there. I've actually harvested a few from here already. So if you don't understand this, a lot of these larger Echeverias throw off really thick stem flower blooms. And there's something in the hormone in the flower blooms that helps throw off offsets if it's not flowering. So you know, if you remove the flower, then it forces this to happen. It takes time, and sometimes it will try and throw off a flower like here. If it does, I just pull them off. So that's just a little technique, and I hope that explains how that works for propagating off flower blooms. And you can see there's a bit of stem here that's got some happening. This does as well. They don't look too great. And I have another piece that I put in the bottom of the pot, and that's doing really well. Well, that's it for the updates. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed talking about them. Before I go, I just want to talk about a couple of strategies I'm using for when summer does come, because it will come. And I have these 3 large pots. I've grown them tall specifically for this purpose, so when I put them here they can create some shade and shadow, because the afternoon sun that comes in this direction. Let me just digress for a minute with these Echeveria zoros. These are a good example to show you what I was talking about with leaf propagation. This is flower bloom propagation. This is a flower bloom stem. I cut the flower off, and there is a pup growing there in front of the leaf, and there is another one here. So with time you can just remove that and then cut off the old flower bloom stem. Anyway, another strategy that I'm going to use, sorry about the background noise, my dog is doing stuff behind me, is I'm using 4 heavy pots with stakes. I'm going to put them around the perimeter. See, there's another one there, and I have shade cloth cut to the right size, so I'll drape it over, clip it here with a bull clip, drape it down, and just use some heavy bricks to secure it to the ground. In essence, I'm creating a little cubby house to protect them. It's only a temporary fix, but that's my strategy for this particular section for summer. Now, I just wanted to say big thanks to everybody who comments and likes my videos. I really appreciate it, and I want to do a big shout out to my friend Janet. Thank you so much for all your support and comments on my videos. Take care, my friends, and I shall see you soon.